go back to your flat brush. Now Marie is going to be a little close to Olaf, so we may end up covering this part of his body a little bit, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. That's what you want to do. So if you're getting stressed out because you're covering up some of your Olaf, it's no big deal. Okay, and we're gonna start and make, I'm gonna use this as a pointer. We want Marie's face about right here, okay? Because she's smaller than Olaf. So you don't want her the same size or bigger because she's gonna look like a big cat. So you want her about right here. And then her body's gonna come down here and probably cover up that area, and then her feet will come right here. Because eventually Olaf is gonna have his hand over her shoulder. He's gonna be like one hand on her and one hand over here on his foot, because we want him to be almost petting her or just being friendly with her, like friend. Okay, so let's get going on her with your flat brush here. Lemon, and her head is tilted down towards him, so we're gonna go like this and like this, just like we did on the practice board. Because if he was petting her, she'd be almost like leaning into him. Okay. And now your jelly bean. And we can make the essence of a tail, but it's really not going to show yet. We'll have to probably do that in white since we have gray here, but you can do it as a practice if you want. And then you're going to get your detail brush and give her her little whiskers pointing up. Those brushes, sometimes they hold water, you gotta watch it. Okay, there's her little whiskers. And then her triangle for her ears. Remember, it's a fat triangle, rounded edges, pointy tip. And the little S for her hair up here. And then for her legs, we're gonna come about right down here. So you're leaving a little stick out area here for her chest, so straight down. Into a rectangle shape. My paint's drying up over here. And 2 paws. And then over here I'd have her other leg. Olaf's foot is working for me right there, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. But if you have space there, go ahead and do your small circle and your little paw. Okay, so now we have Olaf and Marie. Basic outline there. Okay, go ahead and get a little bit of white, and I just want you to have a touch of blue. In fact, put your blue over a little bit from your white. I don't want you to put it directly on top of the white because we're going to mix this, but I don't want you to get too much blue in there because you just want a lighter blue. So just a tip a little bit on your flat brush there and mix it in. You see how a little bit goes a long way. because we want to save our whitest white for the last layer on him. That's how we're going to make it look like snow. So layers on the bottom, further in, would be a little bit darker because it's got depth. Okay, can you see that? It's almost like a blue-white, very, very pale. Okay, not too blue. And then you're going to go back to this flat brush we've been using with the rounded edge. And we're going to go over our gray. A gray is a great color to cover. So if you have a background already and you're putting a character on top of a background, if I hadn't done that gray, the purple would have shown through too much and I would have been able to see leaves behind it. That's why we did the gray. It's also going to add depth as well, but the gray is a great covering. So if I would have had like black lines or anything behind there, I would have had to go straight to gray anyway, but also because of the leaves, if that makes sense. If there's any color behind there, the gray cancels it out. Make sure to get all the water off your brush. I'm not doing a very good job of that tonight. And we're just going to go back over our motions here and start bringing in some white. This is our white blue. So we're just going back over our painting. So go over to the top and then drag it down like that. As I get here to this indentation right here, I go a little bit lighter because I want him to have a little bit of a smile line. So if I leave that preserved there, so it's the top of where his nose sits, then it looks like it's going deeper in. That would be the snow is going deeper in there on his face. So if you can preserve some of that, that's great. Then we're going to go down here to this midsection and do the same thing. See how I left that space there? I want that space there. And I'm using a lighter touch as I come down here. It's almost like a feather touch. And see how you can see the gray through that because I've used such a light touch? That's what you want. You don't want to go heavy-handed in there and just stop lobbing on paint. You want it to be a light touch. And make sure your brush isn't too loaded. So in between the layers, I'm leaving space. I'm leaving gray there. This is his foot down here. See how I left that gray there? Leave it there. It gives shadow. You can go over a little bit lighter if you want to. But every time you touch this with another layer, see how it gets more opaque and it loses that transparency where it starts to look like snow. Okay, so got him kind of filled in there. And because we've done such a light layer, it will dry pretty quickly. So now go ahead and get out just pure white. Don't mix it with blue or anything, you're just getting out a little bit of pure white. Load your brush the same way, kind of thin. Don't put a ton on there. If you get a ton, just lightly rub it against your paper towel. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back over this. So start at the top, pull down. And as you come down towards that section down there, just kind of lift up your brush a little bit. Here. Pull down, fill it in. Leave that shadow there, leave that shadow. Lightly. It comes down to the bottom, lift your brush so you leave that shadow. That's his little foot. Okay, let's go one more time right up here to the top of his head. See that little circle I made? I've just made like a little C shape, and then I went and I cleaned off my brush, so my brush has hardly any paint on it at all. There's probably none on there. I'm just gonna drag this paint down. And same thing right here. I'm gonna just go into his little indentation of a smile and drag that paint down. Here, drag that paint down. Now do you see how we're getting some layers there? It's a little bit brighter up at the top. And another layer here on the right hand side. Borrow my brush and pull it in that way. Because he's leaning, you're going to see a shadow on this side because he's leaning over his body. So this side will be whiter. Drag it in. All the way to the center on his little belly here because he's kind of chubby, so this would be sticking out a little bit more. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I hope. It's whiter on this side. Not whiter, but whiter. W-H-I-T-E. And then let's give his foot a little bit more too, so it's a little more pronounced. Okay, now you can just go straight to, rinse your brush, flatten it out, and set it aside. Go straight to your blue, just solid blue, with your detail brush. And I want you to load it, but we're gonna do, so load it and then twirl it out so it makes a sharp point, okay? Drag that paint down so it makes a sharp point. Don't just go like this and go straight to your painting, because you see that ball of paint at the end? That's not good. Drag it out and turn it and get your point back. We're gonna start his smile. So his smile is basically a U shape that just goes with the direction of his body. I'm gonna start here, dip down, and then come right here, come over, so you've got a little smile there, and then fill it in. Now, for those of you that want to be a little extra, if you think you can pull it off and just feel comfortable with your painting, go ahead and get a little bit of black out and mix a little touch of black and a little touch of your blue together so that you have a kind of a, I'll show you right here, a little bit of blackish blue. So I just touched in there and then touched in the black and then mixed it. Get it back to the point again. And you're going to go over on this side here with that color and then just slowly brush it in like that. Rinse your brush, go back to your blue, and then we're going to just blend it together here. That's just creating a little bit of a shadow. You can take the tip of your brush and daub it, and it will help blend as well, just like that. Okay, this is starting to look like Olaf, huh? Okay, go back to your white with your fine brush, load it up a little bit, And we're just gonna get where his eyebrows will be. And I want this, everything that comes more forward on Olaf, because he's a sculpture, is gonna be more white. So his eyebrows are sculpted first. So we're just gonna put that there, like that. And then his mouth comes out slightly here. So right here at the edge of your mouth with the same brush, same paint, just do a little bit of a curve and bring it down. Hopefully you can see that. Like that. And then again with the white with your fine brush, right underneath his smile, just make another little white U shape. That's like his little lower lip. This is just creating shadow and depth. Okay, and a little bit up here on his cheeks just to make it even more accentuated. And again, let's go over this again because as it's drying, it helps us out now that it's more dry. And a little bit right here again. So do you see how you're building up those layers and making it go more opaque, and you're leaving shadowed areas and opaque white areas? Very good. Okay, go back to your white with your brush again. And it's okay this time if you have a daub of paint at the end, that's absolutely fine. You don't need a fine tip. We're gonna do 2 circles for his eyes. So right here, circle. And right here, they're kind of close together. Circle. And we need that to dry. So go ahead and, you remember that blue and white that you mixed together for his first layer of his body? Hi, Sassy. We're gonna do a tooth, his tooth. So this is that blue-white mixture. You're just gonna come right here. No, kitty. She loves to come up here when I paint. And you're gonna make a little rectangle right here. Now, same thing as when you brought your paint down here and you left this shadow, you want a little bit of a shadow right here. We can always add it back in if you lose it, but if you leave it, if you leave a little bit of a line of a space there, it helps save you a little bit. Looks more natural too than adding it in. Okay. Now we have to wait for those to dry, so let's go ahead and move to Marie while that's happening. So go back to your flat brush and then go back to your white and your blue mix that we just used for his tooth and we did for the first layer of Olaf. And let's do the same thing for Marie. Let's fill her in a little bit. Let me switch over here. Okay, so let's do our lemon. And her body. If you feel comfortable with your using the edge of your brush, you can leave that space. If you don't feel comfortable with that, leave a space right here because this is her leg behind her body. It's on the other side of her body. Okay, fill that in. And this one's not, it's on this side, on the outside of her body. So we're gonna close that space. Does that make sense? See how we've left that grayness right there? Because that's the shadow from underneath her chest. This is her little circle. And then she's got her little tail right there, like your little S. So see how this all worked out good for us with this shadow here? Hopefully you still have it. And don't worry about if Olaf's foot was down here and you have a big shadow here, don't worry about that. We're gonna work on shadowing underneath them anyway. We're gonna be covering that up, so it doesn't matter. I'm more wanting you to have shadow in the bodies. Don't worry about down here, what it looks like. Okay, go up to her ears. Go ahead and fill the whole ear in because we're gonna be doing some pink in the center anyway. Do her little whiskers. Here comes my kitty again. Her little hair. If you have some gray behind you that's preserved, that's okay. Don't worry about it because that gives you a little bit of depth. You don't have to get rid of everything. Sorry, my cat is getting on my table. She wants to sit down and I'm gonna let her because if I don't, I'll just keep fighting her over it. Lay down. Good girl. That's a good baby. Okay. Now let's go back to Olaf because he's probably got some dry eyes. So you're gonna go back to your detail brush in white. And let's go back and just get back in our little circles here. And let's start at the bottom. So you're filling in your circles and the bottom of his tooth. And just work your way up and leave a little bit of a shadow underneath his lip there. So you're preserving that color. Okay, let's go ahead and get out your brown. I have mine all in the bag here. Shake up the paint. Don't forget to shake up your paint. Especially because we haven't used brown yet, so make sure you shake it really good. Tap at the bottom to spank its butt. Spank it, sassy. Get out a little bit of brown. And Olaf's brown is a little bit of a darker brown than what I've purchased here. So we're gonna mix a little bit of black with it. So a half-half mixture. You don't need very much black actually because it's so pigmented. So let me show you here what I got here. So like right there, maybe a little bit more. And then same thing as we did over here, you want to drag that tip out because we want to use the fine tip, okay? We're going to do his eyebrows. So nice steady hands. Get off any excess paint if you need to. And we're going to start here at the center and just come down and then curve down. Start here. Light hand, you guys. Practice on your practice board first if you need to. So this would be the same almost motions that we did for these branches. Start with the tip, straight down, and like that. Let's go ahead and give him some hair while we're here, his little branches. So make sure you have a nice point on your brush and not too much paint. And we'll start right here and just do a little curve and then down and make a little friend there on that branch, and then a little bit here and here, and a little one here with the little guy right there. And if it's not dark enough, go back and do it again. Oops, a little hair on my brush. So go over it again, because sometimes if your paint is a little bit watery, it will get too see-through and you can't see it. There. Okay, now go back with a blue and black mixture. So a little bit of blue, a little touch of black. You're gonna have like a darkish bluish gray, so this color right here. So I just did a little bit of blue, a little bit of black, and mixed it together. You never need a whole lot of black because black is so, it's just like so pigmented. It just takes a touch to make something dark. Roll your brush and give it a point. And we're going to go around the eyes. This is a tricky part, but remember, if you mess up a little bit, we can always fix it with the white. So don't worry if you mess up too much, okay? You're just outlining, nice fine touch, your eyes. So just outlining your eyes. And you don't want it too dark, because if you outline it with black, it's gonna look like he's got a black eye. So just that little bit of a mixture. Okay, and then you're gonna go back with your brush clean, dip it in your black, and you want a little ball at the end. Hopefully my camera focuses on that. So I get down here. There's a little ball at the end of black paint because I just put the tip in there. And I'm gonna make his eyeball by just dabbing down, and I'm letting the paint and the brush do the work for me. Just dabbing down, and it's gonna make a circle on its own. Go back, a little ball at the end, and almost right in the center, just make a little ball of paint. And that's gonna dry and make a circle. Make sure you get it. If it's not a perfect circle, push the paint out a little bit. Okay. And let's go back again with some blue and black mixed together, like we did for the outer edge of his eye. And get it a little bit thin. So you may need to add a little bit of water to it. A little thin, because I'm going to outline him on this side a little bit, because it would be a natural shadow here. So I'm just going to take my brush and outline this side a little bit. So we can see him a little better. Separate him from the bush. And this is where you really need to practice using a fine touch on your board, because line work is hard if you're not used to it. I'm going to take a little bit of that blue back. See right here with your shadow? I'm going to just take a little bit and go like this. So I curved it in. I followed my shadow in there. Okay, now let's mix white, blue. So we have that pale bluish white that we used for that first layer. And I want you to add a little touch of black, just a touch. We're going to just make it like a gray. Very light. A very light gray. So I have a very light gray right here. And I'm going to flatten out. Do you see how I flattened out that brush? This is the same detail brush, but I'm flattening it out. See how I got that fine edge? It's almost like a knife edge. We're going to make his little smile right here. So following the line of his smile,